Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Brad Riddell to defeat Rafael Fiziev. And I'm here to talk about Bobby Green versus Jalin Turner. Jalin Turner is stepping up on short notice to take this fight, replacing Dan Hooker, his most recent opponent. Jalin Turner is 13-7 as a pro, 28 years old, and he's got 5 inches of reach and 5 inches of height, 4.5 inches of reach against 37-year-old Bobby Green, who is 31-14-1. Jalin, he's a big, gigantic guy. I'm assuming he makes the weight, but I'm skeptical. But just know that this video is before the weight cut, so I'm assuming he makes the weight. He is 13-7, 13 finishes in his 13 wins. This guy's a potent finisher, 9 by knockout, 4 by submission. We've seen the danger at the UFC level. Choked out Brad Riddell. He hurt him before that, and that was all in like 10 seconds. And then he guillotined him in round 1. Choked out Uros Medic in round 1 with a rear naked choke, and he hurt him badly in that fight as well. Almost got him out of there with a TKO. Knocked out Jamie Malarkey, Joshua Kulabau, choked out Brock Weaver. Jalin Turner has proven to be an above-average UFC fighter for sure, and in the upper echelon of dangerous fighters. And here he's going to need that danger against Bobby Green, and he's going to have to be counting on Bobby Green succumbing to the danger, even though Bobby Green is historically a tough guy to put away. But I do think Jalin Turner, even without worrying about weight cuts and whatever, and taking the fight on short notice, I do think Bobby Green, if he finds himself in a 15-minute fight with Bobby Green is going to have the better cardio. Bobby Green will be more comfortable in round 3. That would be my prediction anyway. But I guess it's exacerbated here with the short notice. But let's look at his losses. Jalin Turner, he's got 3 by knockout, 4 by decision. The 3 knockouts come to Richard Leroy, who knocked him out in round 3, Ronnie Borja, who knocked him out in 11 seconds, and Vicente Luque, who knocked him out in his UFC debut, I believe. He was legitimately knocked out against Borja and Luque. I don't know if I've seen the Leroy fight, but I have serious doubts about his chin moving forward. I do think it's a weakness. I just don't think it's a big weakness here in this fight. Even though Bobby Green's coming off a 10-second finish or whatever over Grant Dawson, I don't think it's really something he has to worry about here against Bobby Green. But it is a weakness of his, in my opinion. Also is the wrestling. Jalin Turner is out-wrestleable. I haven't seen his loss to Andrew Lagdan on the regional scene, but I've seen his losses to Gamrot, Hooker, and Frivola, especially Gamrot and Frivola. They out-wrestled Jalin Turner, and they out-hustled him. And those were still close fights, really close fights, both of them. And Jalin Turner had a lot of success throughout both those fights. But in general, he was out-wrestleable, and that's what swung the decisions in his opponent's favor. And again, both those were close fights. I don't even know which ones of his were split out of the Frivola and Gamrot losses, but the Dan Hooker fight I know is split. And I definitely thought Hooker won that fight, but not with wrestling. I thought Dan Hooker dragged him into a dogfight and beat him up, got the better of it. Dan Hooker was much more comfortable in a fight like that. Jalin Turner is very dangerous, but when he can't put you away or whatever, I think in general, he's the one that's got more to worry about in most fights, and certainly in this fight against Bobby Green. Bobby Green has an incredible amount of experience, even compared to somebody like Dan Hooker, and he's a guy who's comfortable in pretty much every situation, aside from being mounted by Islam Makhachev. Bobby Green, he's got a record of 31-14-1. I'll get into his losses here. Drew Dober knocked him out. That wasn't so long ago. Strike against his chin, although it is Drew Dober. Islam Makhachev, that's a TKO, but it was totally due to grappling. Dustin Poirier knocked him out. That was a legit knockout at UFC 199, as Bobby was talking shit. And Tim Means beat him up in King of the Cage, I believe. And that was a TKO, but really due to exhaustion. Bobby Green, I don't think, was able to answer the bell for round 3. And he could barely stand at the end of round 2. But that's it for being finished. He's been knocked out twice. Dustin Poirier and Drew Dober. Those are the 2 major strikes against his chin. He's been submitted twice, but they were both 15 years ago. And I saw one of them live, Dan Lozon. And his 8 decisions, I'm not going to get into them. Let's just say, I don't know, 6 of them are split and 4 of them are bullshit. But Bobby Green is a guy that doesn't make it easy to beat him by decision. And I think here, Jalin Turner, his best course of victory is knocking out Bobby Green. And I do think it's possible. Bobby Green is 37 years old. I speculated when he was fighting Jared Gordon that I had doubts about his chin against Jared Gordon. Jalin Turner is maybe 5 times as dangerous as Jared Gordon. So my concerns are here for Bobby Green, but I think Bobby Green, he's in fighting shape. He was training to go 5 rounds here, just in case you don't know, against Dan Hooker. It was a 5-round fight as a co-main event on a fight night, but still, it was 5 rounds. So Bobby, I expect to be in tip-top shape. He's got a lot of momentum, beating Grant Dawson and Tony Ferguson and getting 2 finishes. And I think Bobby Green is going to tame Jalin Turner. I think he's going to survive round 1, however the fuck you do that against Jalin Turner, but I think he's going to do it, and I think Bobby Green is going to take over this fight. I'd love to see him use wrestling the way Frivola and Gamrot did, but I don't know if Bobby Green's got that in him. I think Bobby Green is going to go through him the way Dan Hooker did, and it's going to be, more talking shit and beating him up, a lot more striking. But I'm going with Bobby Green. I think at plus 200, they simply got this one wrong. So Bobby Green is the pick. Maybe if I'm going to hedge, it'd be with Jalin Turner with a round 1 finish. If the knockout is that much better than the flat finish prop for round 1, then round 1 knockout would be the play there. Because I think that's his best course of victory. But Jalin Turner, he's not going to do well, I think, down the stretch with Bobby Green if he doesn't get that knockout. So Bobby Green is the pick. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.